Emily Carter learned how to hide her feelings behind a calm face, and no one noticed how restless she had become until even silence started to feel loud. Her life with her husband Daniel looked peaceful from the outside, a neat home in Oregon, shared meals, polite conversations, but inside her chest lived a quiet hunger she could not name. It was not about anger or betrayal, it was about depth, about wanting life and love to feel fuller than the careful routines they followed each day. She woke up feeling unfinished, went to sleep feeling the same, and somewhere between morning coffee and evening lights, she wondered if this was all love was meant to be. Daniel sensed the change without needing words. He noticed the pauses in her voice, the way her eyes searched the room as if looking for something that was missing, and the way she smiled a little too late. One evening, when the rain fell steadily and the house felt smaller than usual, Daniel broke the quiet with a calm voice that carried more weight than anger ever could. He told her that sometimes people need to face their feelings instead of hiding them, that pretending comfort can slowly erase truth. Emily felt nervous, unsure where his words were leading, but before she could ask, the doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, cutting through the room like a warning. Daniel stood up, his face serious but gentle, and asked her to stay seated, telling her to listen and trust him just this once. Emily's heart raced as the door opened and three strangers stepped inside, their presence unexpected but respectful, their expressions calm, not threatening. Daniel stepped aside, watching quietly, not interrupting, not explaining, and that silence spoke louder than any argument. Emily felt exposed, confused, and strangely awake all at once, as if a door inside her had been unlocked without her permission. She realized this moment was not about fear but about truth, and whatever was about to happen would change the shape of her marriage forever. The three strangers introduced themselves calmly, their voices steady and welcoming, and Emily felt a strange mix of curiosity and caution as she studied their faces. There was Michael, a quiet writer with deep, thoughtful eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface, Sarah, a warm and gentle therapist whose smile made it easier to speak, and James, a retired teacher whose calm presence grounded the room. They didn't come to judge or intervene, they came to listen, to ask questions that reached into the heart of what Emily had been feeling for so long but could never say aloud. Daniel remained near the doorway, silent, giving Emily the space to open herself fully, and in that silence, she realized he was trusting her honesty more than he feared what she might reveal. Michael spoke first, asking when she had last felt truly seen, and Emily felt the question cut straight to the part of her she had hidden from herself. Sarah encouraged her gently, saying that not knowing the answer was okay, that sometimes our deepest feelings hide beneath years of routine and quiet compromise. James reminded her that longing wasn't shameful, that recognizing what you need didn't mean you were ungrateful for what you had. The room felt charged with something Emily hadn't expected, permission to be real, to speak the truth without fear of criticism. Slowly, she began to talk, first haltingly, then with more flow, revealing the quiet loneliness she had tucked away, the moments of unmet longing, the love she still felt for Daniel that had somehow grown cautious over the years. As she spoke, she saw no judgment in the stranger's eyes, only understanding and patience, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt the weight of her secret lift just a little. Daniel stayed quiet, observing, not interrupting, and the strange combination of vulnerability and safety made Emily realize that opening up didn't weaken her, it strengthened her. The three strangers listened to every word, never pressing too far, allowing her to explore feelings she had avoided. For fear of disrupting her marriage, yet without shielding her from the truth of her own heart. By the time the conversation slowed, Emily's eyes were wet, but her voice felt lighter, freer, as though speaking had carved a space inside her for honesty and connection. The strangers prepared to leave, giving Emily a final nod of respect, acknowledging her courage and the choice she had made to confront her emotions. When the door closed behind them, Emily felt an unusual stillness in the room, a silence that was heavy but not uncomfortable, and Daniel finally stepped forward, breaking the quiet with a simple question, asking why she had chosen to open herself that way. In that moment, Emily realized that the strangers had not just come into her home, they had created a mirror for her soul, reflecting back the longing she had buried, the truths she had hidden, and the possibility that love could be deeper, fuller, and richer than she had ever allowed herself to imagine, all under the quiet, watchful presence of the man she had vowed to love forever. The conversation stretched long into the night, the air thick with unspoken truths and emotions Emily had held inside for years, and yet the room remained calm, grounded by the presence of the strangers and the quiet watchfulness of Daniel, who had chosen to step back and let her voice be heard. Michael spoke of regret, sharing how silence had cost him love in his own life, his words gentle but sharp enough to make Emily think of the times she had stayed quiet instead of asking for what she needed. Sarah talked about courage, about couples who survived only when they faced uncomfortable feelings together, emphasizing that honesty could hurt at first but heal over time if both partners were willing to listen. James added his steady perspective, reminding Emily that choosing fear over truth only built walls between hearts, and that sometimes letting someone see your real self was the bravest act you could perform. Emily listened, absorbing every word, feeling as if each voice peeled away a layer of her guarded heart, revealing the raw longing beneath her smiles and routines. She turned to Daniel, her chest tight, and asked why he had let this happen, why he had invited strangers into such a private space of their life. Daniel's answer came softly, but with weight, as he admitted he was afraid that if she never faced her feelings, they might drift apart anyway, afraid that controlling her emotions would never create true closeness. Emily's heart pounded at his honesty. She realized that his silence had not been neglect but trust, a willingness to let her explore her emotions fully without judgment. The strangers began to leave, their presence no longer needed, leaving Emily and Daniel alone in the quiet house that now felt charged with vulnerability and possibility. As the door clicked shut behind them, Emily felt a strange mixture of relief and fear, the relief of being heard and the fear of what facing her truth might demand from her marriage. She stared at Daniel, who looked tired but fully present, and in that moment understood that depth came at a price. Honesty required courage, patience, and trust, and now it was theirs to navigate together. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every silence stretched longer, as Emily realized that opening up to the strangers had shifted something between them permanently, that she could no longer pretend that comfort alone was enough. She had chosen truth, and now she had to see if love could meet her there. The room seemed smaller yet fuller, every object familiar but touched with a new significance, as if witnessing her vulnerability had changed the space itself. Emily felt the weight of the night settle on her shoulders, not like a burden but like a promise that things could grow, that connection could deepen, that love could be realer than it had ever been before. Daniel reached for her hand finally, not demanding answers, not seeking control, but simply offering presence, and Emily squeezed back, understanding. That depth wasn't a place they could arrive at instantly, it was a journey, one that began the moment they chose to stop hiding and start facing their hearts together. And in that quiet, after the strangers had gone, Emily realized that the night had given her something rare, the chance to see herself fully, to see her husband fully, and to glimpse the kind of love that could survive honesty, fear, and longing, a love that required risk but promised more than she had ever dared hope. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and hesitant, as Emily sat on the edge of the bed replaying the night over and over in her mind, realizing that wanting something deeper wasn't about escaping her life or punishing Daniel, it was about connection, honesty, and the courage to face feelings that had been ignored for too long. She thought about the strangers, how their questions and calm presence had unlocked emotions she hadn't even admitted to herself, how their words had made her feel seen without judgment, and how Daniel had stayed silent yet supportive, letting her explore her heart without interference. Every memory of the night felt charged. Michael's quiet insights about regret, Sarah's gentle encouragement to embrace vulnerability, James's steady reminders that fear could never build true closeness, and Daniel's trust that she could navigate her feelings honestly. Emily understood now that depth had a price measured not in arguments or tears but in willingness to be open, to risk discomfort, and to embrace the truth of what love really required. She went to the kitchen and found Daniel already there, sitting with a cup of cold coffee, his eyes thoughtful, waiting without pressure. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, "I don't want to lose us," and he met her gaze, tired yet sincere, replying, "Then we face it together. We grow through it, not around it." In that exchange, Emily felt a shift, a quiet but profound understanding that their marriage didn't need perfection, it needed honesty, trust, and the bravery to explore emotional depth together. She realized that love could survive, and even thrive, when both partners allowed themselves to be seen, when silence gave way to dialogue, and when moments of vulnerability were treated not as weakness but as an invitation to grow closer. The room felt different now, charged with a new energy, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the truth and patience that had been shared the night before. Emily thought about the longing she had carried for years, the desire to feel fully understood and connected, and how that longing had finally met with trust and recognition, not with judgment or fear. She understood that this was only the beginning. Depth wasn't a single night or a single conversation, it was a journey of patience, courage, and mutual respect, and for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to take that journey with Daniel. The weight in her chest had eased, replaced with a quiet determination to nurture this new closeness, to speak her truths and listen to his without holding back, and to let their love grow in a way that was honest, tender, and real. In that moment, Emily realized that the night had changed them both, not by dramatic gestures or grand confessions, but by allowing space for vulnerability, trust, and understanding, creating a connection that was deeper than routine, deeper than comfort, and deeper than either had imagined. And as Daniel reached for her hand across the table, not asking for promises but simply offering presence, Emily squeezed it back, feeling that love didn't require perfection, only honesty, courage, and the willingness to grow together, step by step, through whatever challenges lay ahead, and in that quiet morning light, she knew their bond had entered a new chapter, one defined not by fear or routine, but by depth, patience, and shared understanding, the kind of love that could survive anything. Because it had faced itself fully and without compromise.